So hi everyone. Today's topic is quite interesting. It's all about Kachra stocks and perception of what is Kachra, what is not Kachra. It's dedicated to all HNIs. A comment about HNIs who have made it big. So what do they say even now and in the past is use the bull market to get rid of Kachra and get into quality. If you're in gains because of Kachra stocks, then they won't last. There will be paper profits. The promoter is playing Pied Piper and using this bull market to make personal gains and all other BS surrounding, so-called kachra. The truth is that these HNIs have had so-called kachra in their portfolio in the past. Kachra is only visible on hindsight. Quality can also become kachra, and kachra, so-called kachra, can also become quality, and we'll see some examples of these to put this kind of talk to rest. Kachra examples from the past, how HNIs have made money. Very popular stock, Atul Auto, and a HNI who made it big because of this stock. Remember, this stock was absolutely known to nobody when this HNI entered and made it big. So, and now Atul Auto is a very recognized company, right? So, once upon a time, no one really even thought about buying Atul Auto. Same with KRBL, considered a penny stock at some point of time, one of the largest basmati rice producers, now so-called moated business and so on and so forth. Both the amines, Alkyl and Balaji, nobody even talked about amines or the amine story, but they were always supplying to these to the B2B customers. But again, it's the flavor of the season now, and now they have so-called modes and pricing power. Granules India, who would ever buy a paracetamol making company was the talk at that time, and now they have showed how they can build economies of scale, build very large plants. So people who didn't understand economies of scale in pharma couldn't really see this and questioned Granules India, and Granules has proved all of them wrong. Similarly, with Avanti Feeds, if you see the Value Picker Forum, it's a beautiful set of exploratory research on how Avanti got discovered. But again, people questioned it through different cycles, but it has turned out to be a great business, right? So uh, HNIs became HNIs because of spotting big winners that were once untouchable, but they contradict themselves by trying to keep calling the stocks that they don't own as so-called kachra, right? So it's important to distinguish, what do these HNIs means, call out their contradictions, and it's time that they kind of, accept these contradictions are there in their talk. Qualities, a so-called quality from the past. Yes Bank was supposed to be the next HDFC Bank. Lot of fund managers, the so-called biggies. If you go on YouTube, they talk about Yes Bank being the next HDFC. Satyam, well known, lot of people owned it. Cannot deny it now. SREI, you see a lot of HNIs being part of SREI. Syntex, value investors thought Syntex is a very good value bet, but failed. A to Z Infra, again, even one HNI still holds it. Uh, and then the list goes on. Divan Housing, 1% beverages, Kitex, Intelligent Fanatic stock, all of these owned by some HNI or the other. But these guys come and advise and give a so-called sermon on what is kachra and what is not kachra. It is laughable, really. They don't want to recognize how luck has panned out for them, and we'll come to that, the probability part of investing. So one has to have, before making such statements, one needs to have empathy for business life cycle, right? A business is very hard to run, and we keep judging companies on quarterly and yearly performance. So if you think about the business life cycle, there is the nascent phase where the business tries to establish itself in terms of the products that it makes. And then there is a growth phase where after sufficient marketing and IP development or some kind of differentiation, it starts to grow phenomenally in terms of sales growth. But of course, its commercial contracts are not so favorable. So profits and cash take time to come through. By the time it becomes a mature business, there will be some shakeout that will happen where competitors will enter the so-called business. But by that time, the cash generation would have improved, and then the business goes through a maturity phase where it competes, it looks for more consistency in its business model rather than thinking like a startup. Then proceeds to have a decline, or it can have a life cycle extension where it can go through another phase of growth, shakeout, and maturity, depending on how intelligent the people who run the company are, what kind of vision they have. Typical example is Apple. It went through this cycle and then it had a life cycle extension. That extension is working out better than before, but something like a Nokia had the same kind of life cycle, but then the decline was quite significant. So one needs to build the empathy, right? As somebody who's probably invested or a stakeholder in the company and or a spectator, you cannot make these very harsh comments on companies for not delivering or having very poor cash flows even at the nascent stage. And these same HNIs who make these comments are the ones who invested in companies with poor cash conversion and poor cash flows. So one needs to see themselves in the mirror and then have some empathy for businesses and the new investors in the market. So the source of this image comes from this website. So I would like to give credit to that website. So in reality, one is alone. Okay, don't look up to any HNI, don't look up to any advisors. Look up to them in terms of how they have actually made it. That take inspiration. That one can also make it big. One can also create wealth for themselves. But don't take their advices in literal. They have their own mood swings. They have their own personal vendettas and battles that they are fighting. And sometimes they act very immature. You can see the debates between various HNIs on Twitter. It is laughable to say the least, but it is also interesting on how to differentiate between the ones who are matured, the ones who are still fighting for recognition, and how even creating enough wealth is not making them very happy. So that is one of the key lessons that one can take, that how to behave, how to conduct oneself is very important. So in reality, the whole game of stock market is probability. It is not, certainty is far away from the stock market. Chances of winning is worse than a toss of a coin. It is the nature of the market, but the outcomes of winners are incredible. So toss of a coin, the outcomes are the same, right? But here, if we get a winner, it can be massive. It can change the entire portfolio and the wealth, the net worth of the individual or the fund, and hence the winners make it very lopsided, right? So that is the game that we are playing. So we are rolling dice a number of times, but at the same time, when we recognize a winner, that winner can really outweigh all the losing tosses that we make. So that the probability is the name of the game. We need to recognize that, as well as we need to also recognize the outcomes of the winners are incredible, right? So that's very important. So what can we actually get wrong? So therefore one needs to forget about kachra, quality and all of that. So what can we get wrong? human emotion can withstand drawdowns very easily. This is one of the reasons why we hold on to losers more than winners. So this is what is inherently built in us. And also what is built in us is we would like to quickly go and book profits. So if some stock has moved 50% in say 2 months, there is a temptation to say, okay, this is enough for me, prorated to a year, and say, oh, this is incredible, this is like 300% return, let me move on to the next stock. But this is not going to be so easy, because the next stock can correct by another 10%. So you could have, even if you have strict stop losses, you could have multiple losing trades, because again, it's probability based, right? So it's important to let the winners ride, but there is a tendency to book profits. So it's incredibly hard to believe, for us to believe a particular stock can go up and keep going up. So that's why, a typical investor who's cynical about the market says that, oh, I invested in such and such a stock, it is now only I've lost 90% of the wealth. But then if you look at the history of that investor, I can pretty much bet that that investor would have booked profits in good stocks, and those stocks would be up by maybe 20-30x, right? So this is what we are kind of working against, our natural instincts. Our brain is therefore naturally inclined to hold on to losers and cut winners. But one also has to recognize, is this de-risked by mutual funds? The answer is no. Mutual funds also does this in the garb of risk management. So if a particular stock becomes a very significant portion of the portfolio, the mutual fund has in its a process to cut down that winner and book some profit and move on to another stock in the same portfolio and balance it. So there is again a natural tendency in the garb of risk management to cut the winners. But what they don't recognize is this game of probability in the markets is very lopsided on winners. So managing risk is a valid argument, but cutting the winners is not the right answer. Statistically, stock markets are not socialist in nature. So what I mean here is, it is not like, okay, one stock has gone up 10 times, we'll give a chance to another stock to also go up by 10 times. Otherwise, you will not have this statistics across the world of capitalism. 85% of the wealth is held by 10% of the population. So why would we think our portfolios will end up being different, right? So we should not be very socialistic to our portfolio when we are dealing with capital markets. It doesn't make any sense to me. But then what can we do? We need to therefore build conviction around our thesis, right? So very important to have a good conviction, to know pretty much what can go wrong, what should go well, and try to understand how the future can pan out with respect to the business life cycle. One needs to be like a hawk and watch the developments in the company, make qualitative judgments, intuitive judgments is fine. It's our money, it's our responsibility. And what also helps is to invert, right? So as Jacobi said, who worked on math, on inverts of matrices, is it always invert, right? So in a way, it's too important to get cynical when narratives around moat and other terms like intelligent fanatics starts to build on, right? So it is important to get our antennas up and running when the market starts to throw these narratives which you probably did not even have in your original thesis. So these kind of inventions to therefore value companies at a very high valuations will come up. So one of the themes now is the ESG theme, which is being built around many companies, energy transition theme. So we have to be very careful with such narratives. Swallowing the bitter pill. So if conviction is challenged with reasonable logic, we need to definitely book the gains or losses. So it's important once your conviction is challenged and it starts to feel a bit brittle, there is no harm in putting our mind to rest. So I have personally done this in a few stocks that I can remember, RS Software being very significant. I had decent chunk of money, and then that got really smashed later. Force Motors was one of them. So RS Software, I got recognized because of client concentration, and then like Visa said that they're going to have their own outsourcing wing. So it was very straightforward. So I could actually come out with gains. Force Motors similarly could come out with massive gains. The CV cycle was turning. Nobody was talking about that. Kaveri Seeds, it was one of my recent entries. I exited because I really didn't understand the business very well. I couldn't build a conviction around it. But maybe it is possibly a great company, but I'm unable to build that conviction well. So these are some examples. Finally, don't listen to HNIs. HNIs, in my opinion, they are there only for entertainment for us, right? Like, they have a very condescending opinion about retailers, and I think we should treat them as jokers in the market because of the way they fight amongst themselves. So don't listen to HNIs, but of course they have made it big. They've done certain things right. So take inspiration is what I do. And definitely don't listen to advisors because there is an intent to make money off you. They are in before you and they're out before you. So I would never take any kind of advice from both HNIs and advisors. Rather, I listen to my friends who are much more empathetic to my situation, who are, who still are in the same road that you are traveling. So it is very easy for us to relate to each other. So listen to friends in the same circle, but never listen to HNIs and advisors. Treat them, just spectate to what they do. A few points to conclude. So a broken clock is right twice a day. So people who call tops and bottoms, the HNIs, they are like a broken clock. Every day a cynical guy will come and say blah blah blah, this is so crazily overvalued. I'm sure that he or she must not own that stock. And similarly, ones who call bottoms, okay, this stock is done, including myself, right? If one doesn't need to listen to these people who are right once in a while, but it's all about their ego. So it's a big ego trip for HNI. So one needs to recognize this. You can clearly see this from Twitter. It gets ugly at some time. Typically some people don't like the coffee can approach, arguments on PE multiples, argument on ITC, and they don't behave like mature individuals. So why would you ever go and subscribe to them, to their PMS or to their wealth management program or whatever it is? Because if they can't handle themselves on a social public platform, how do we expect them to handle other people's money? So this is very interesting that these guys have made it so big, but still have these big bloated egos, which they may eventually learn that it's not a great thing to have. Then if we consider ourselves as small investors or traders, we need to call out emperors who don't wear their clothes. So if someone who says this is a Kachra stock, point to them what Kachra they owned one day, and it's important because they are not doing good for you by not giving you enough data on why calling something Kachra. Rather not make that remark itself. So it's more of a snide remark if they're true to themselves. So don't hold back before calling these people out. And finally, you're very alone in this journey, right? That's what I have recognized. So one needs to protect oneself from all stupidity, because any kind of stupid remarks from a HNI or an advisor, oh, this is overvalued, this is undervalued, can get you to make a wrong decision. It is our money. It is not their money. They are trying to sell you something. They're trying to sell you a brand. They're trying to sell you themselves, their personality. Don't get carried away. I would say, at least that's what I do. But I do take inspiration from them. There is no harm in taking inspiration from them, right? So hopefully this video is useful. And if it's not, please, I apologize for that. Thank you.